Hello, hello. Welcome back to the channel. I've got Laura back with me again for Meanwhile Elsewhere podcast, and we are talking about Alien Earth. And I think we're kind of like all over the place, all over the map on this one.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I wanted to ask you, like right getting into it, with this, consciousness upload that's taking part of this whole
I have
Neverland.
so much to say
Okay.
about this part.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how intense do you think this is gonna get? Because if they have the technology, what's the most messed up thing you think that they can do with it? Like,
Well, oh, go ahead.
well, I'm just wondering if the introduction of this memory upload, I'm not even sure it's the same person.
I
Like, is
would have
it might
said
just be a copy, right?
like
Like,
on a scale of 1 to altered carbon.
okay, yeah,
Like, do you
yeah.
see what I'm saying? Because so when Neverland, the episode kind of started to kick off, at one point I was like, "Oh, this is basically the same theory and concept as altered carbon has. It's just a little behind like the technology jump of altered carbon where you can, transmit consciousness across like Wi-Fi
But in
basically.
altered carbon, they're going in human bodies, right? Like, they're actually in.
Yeah, they're actually in human bodies. But in altered carbon, we do also see human consciousness implanted into a synth body.
Okay, okay.
Like the daughter, the one who forms like the close relationship
Yeah,
with,
yeah,
yeah, the Edgar
Takashi.
Allan.
Yeah.
Well, not
Yep.
just that, but with the Edgar Allan Poe, the Nevermore
Mhm.
hotel. That's kind of what it made me think of. I am interested in why it's such a secret though, because and they do talk about how like the adult mind doesn't have the neuroplasticity to make that transition, but that a child's mind does. And that does make like sense. But are they going to be making super soldiers eventually? Like,
Well, I think they already have at
yeah,
this point. Like,
I mean, we
that's
do
where
get into the what I was
my
like,
mind is going.
yeah, let's send a bunch of children to do that. That makes total sense.
Right. I think,
Is
yeah.
this like the trillionaire version of their own militia, like a bunch of sick kids who are just like happy to be given the chance to live? Then they send them out to like do military tactical missions, like with zero training and, beanie babies clipped to their hip and
I got my Labubu.
I
Let's
got
go.
yeah, I got my Labubu.
No, I think, well,
I ha
okay.
I have a funny story about Labubus, but that's for later.
Um, so on that aspect, the way that they introduced Wendy, I kind of feel like we're meant to question whether she's going to be some type of savior or if it's all going to come crashing down and she becomes something we don't expect, because I kind of get this idea that at some point it's going to be the point where these kids can't be controlled any longer. So
Right.
what happens when they wake up and they say, "Okay, we're not cool with this?" They're nearly indestructible from what we've seen. I mean, Wendy's taken swan dives off of cliff faces and, landing like a Marvel
Yeah.
action hero. So, like, how strong are they? How indestructible are they?
You
Pretty
know,
pretty intense, but
I have some questions here, and I mean,
mhm.
they might be answered a little bit down the road. But when it comes to Wendy, I would actually like really go with the position that she is quite possibly is the furthest from human that any of them are. Because they talk about like her specifically having like her mind was replaced with like an AI supercomputer. And these are like factions that weren't just transferred in with the consciousness transfer. And then the real question is like, does it transfer anything outside of memory? because they've already made it clear, like, it doesn't transfer the human condition, like, they can't replicate that in,
Right, with the
like, an
hormones
external
and yeah.
source, right. Or okay, here's another option. We could be looking at, like, a murder bot kinda situation where the bodies are made of organic compound, but then,
Organic
like,
and inorganic
yeah,
and
organic and inorganic, that kinda thing. It kinda feels like the middle ground between altered carbon and murder bot as far as, like, the transfer of consciousness goes, but why does a cyborg need oxygen? But it's
well,
like,
he's, like,
why
part human, right? Like, isn't
okay,
he
so
human with, like, machine parts?
yeah, I think that might be the part I'm not understanding is the definitive, like, differences between the cyborgs
I'll have to
and the
bring it
synths.
up. At the very, very beginning, there's the breakdown, but it's like the
I
green
saw
screen,
that. I read
but
it, like, twice, and it didn't I don't maybe it did cover it, I don't
we
know.
still have more questions.
So it's like, okay, so it's not an indestructible body, it's just without the frailty of the human aspect of the body.
Yeah, that's what it seems like to me. But I mean, my big question here with this whole Neverland project is if they have the technology that they can do this, what else can they do? Can they do it with other life forms? Like, can you put the consciousness of a human in a different type of life form? Like we've got aliens running amok, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, they could take this in a
Oh.
really, really messed up way, or even vice versa, like, put the human or put the I mean, like, they could put an alien
Like the
consciousness
xenomorph
into a
in
human
yeah,
body or a, like,
and that
robot
definitely
body
okay, so,
or
clearly we
animal or
have
whatever.
I guess we're kinda talking about these as one episode,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
So, we get a little further in, and we find out that the the deep space research vessel that Morrow is piloting and letting everybody else die on, which, I mean, I mean, if you know what the xenomorphs are like, I get it, I do.
Yeah.
But so we have that, like, whole plot line going on, and then we have the boy, the adult man who
Ah,
goes
yeah.
by the name Boy
Boy
Genius.
Kavalier. Yeah,
Is that,
boy
like, his
genius.
name is Boy?
I
I
I
hope
guess.
so,
I
otherwise it's weird.
ho
So we have, like but then we find out that Boy's not the one who's looking for these specimen samples, it's an entirely different corporation, and now that they have them, I wanna know what that other corporation wanted to do with the xenomorphs. Because like, I feel like the only thing you could possibly try to use them for is some sort of, like, military use, remember, like, when they used in the movie Alien versus Predator? Kinda like that, where use, another alien species to control, like,
Another
your own.
species.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, personally, I think they would have been better off with the predators, but they've chosen xenomorphs instead.
I mean, I could see if we're looking at everything from the aspect of, like, how technologically advanced it is because we've got an idea, but we don't really know exactly how far it goes. I'm
Well,
wondering too if, like, maybe they're thinking it's not necessarily they just want the xenomorph, but they want this, like, collection of different types of alien critters, I guess, because with that comes new opportunities for new advancement, whether it be, like, medical or, like, something that making it so that people don't age, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
something like that
I
for the
figured that they
ultra
yeah.
wealthy.
Yeah, I figured that they wanted this when I found out it was a different corporation, I figured that they wanted the xenomorphs for either a military purpose or some sort of, like, genetically enhancing humans with xenomorph, either organic matter or genetics or or
Super
DNA,
soldier,
something
yeah.
like that. But that also leaves us with, like boy genius, what is he doing all this for? Because I don't believe it's philanthropy. If it were philanthropy, it wouldn't be a secret.
I was not convinced with his little monologue about just basically being bored, and he's like, "Well, I made these things so that I have someone
So
that's
I could
on
finally
my
have it
level."
so I could
Yeah.
finally have an interesting conversation. Oh
Right.
my god, how would
Right.
you stomach listening to that
Boy
all day?
Boy genius is like the millennial man who gets bored and decides, "I'm gonna either start training for a 10K, become a podcaster, or" you know what I mean? Like, "I'm gonna
Oh,
start
that's
cooking."
him. So apparently he spent all this money on a secret project just to have kids outsmart him, which I don't believe. So the real question is like, what was he trying to accomplish? And then how do those motives change now that he may or may not have possession of some either like face huggers or some ovomorphs like the eggs or
Mhm.
I mean I doubt they're going to catch like a full size
Xenomorph.
xenomorph and they're definitely not going
They
to
got
like
close, they got
right,
close.
but I don't think they're gonna trap a like, a queen either, so I'm not really
Yeah.
sure, like
See, this is another question for me because where we're at just in these first 2 episodes, in my mind, this is just me being basic, I guess, but when I'm sitting down for something like within the Alien franchise, I don't always need it to be like super highbrow. I don't need it to have like all of these incredible themes and like B
right,
plots that are really making me like try and think about like the human condition and stuff like that. I don't need it all. Like if you give me and deliver like a really good cat and mouse game, you've got the good visuals, you've got like the blood, the gore, I'm pretty satisfied. So what they're doing with this show, I kind of wonder how that's sitting with the people who like grew up with the franchise and whether or not like they're into the more like if you go down the road towards like Alien Prometheus where it's like asking these
oh, I
bigger
like that one.
questions. See, and I don't like Prometheus.
Like, uh
Like it feels I think it's just because it's a kind of a different style than what's been presented, like, previously in a way, and so I wonder where this series is going to kind of sit. If it's going to kind of start leaning into more of like, okay, this is more about the xenomorph, or is it more about like all of these Peter Pan themes and the Neverland
that's
story
weird.
and stuff like that? Like, how is it going to converge? And I think
Yeah,
that was a question for me when we were watching Dune Prophecy. It was like, how are these storylines going to kind of mesh and flow? And when we end the season, where are we sitting? And so far, I can't quite grasp where it's going. And also, like, I really enjoyed this very haunted house aspect of the first, 2 episodes. The crash looked phenomenal, like, the
yes,
VFX was
yes, great.
it was so good, it was so good, it looked incredible, and then I did enjoy this kind of, like, twist and turn through this building as it's breaking down and this whole kind of, like yeah, like, it felt very, very haunted house, very horror in that aspect, and I really liked that, but, it's hard to say, like, which direction that it's going to go because I could imagine next episode, we're no longer at the crash site, like, we've moved on to something else, and so, like,
Right.
how I know it's alien Earth, like, the alien has landed on Earth, it has arrived, but where is that story going to go? Is it gonna be more about containment, or is it gonna be more about, like, catching it and trying to do some weird science with it. Like, I still have no idea where it's all going based on
Right.
these first 2 episodes. I like where it's going, but it's so kind of
I am
vague.
Yeah, I've seen a number of the Alien films. I haven't seen all of them. So I'm not I do get the idea that they kept, like, kind of like the sets in theme with all the movies, right?
For yeah, kind of. I mean, some of them are pretty much solely taking place on a ship, and then some of them are actually, on the ground and people running around doing things. So they're all a little bit different. Some of them are much better than others.
You know what my biggest, like, qualm with the show is that
Hmm.
it's like, this is taking place in 2120. Is not that far away in, like, the grand scheme of
Oh,
time.
2120. So yeah,
Yeah.
not our
So
past, our future.
yeah, but it's only 95 years in the future, and I think that they should have set it out just a small bit farther,
You
only because
think?
yeah, I highly doubt we're gonna, as a species, make the technological jumps we need in the next 95 years.
Mm, mm, mhm. Okay, I see what you're saying. I
Yeah,
don't
that
think
was
that
the
it's
only thing
meant
that
to
threw me
be.
off.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on, like, how yeah, because, like, when the original films was made, I don't remember what year that was supposed to take place with, like, Ripley on the ship.
Yeah, and,
Yeah, like, it
you
wouldn't have been
know
that far in the future, so, like, I'm sure they're trying to just keep with the alien timeline and
right,
not
with
so
that
much like
universe.
yeah, not so much be like, "Is it possible in this many years we'll be able to actually
Yeah, no,
do
I figured
something
they were
like
trying to
this?"
keep with the universe. That was the only thing that I was like, 2120? That's not far enough away. It's like, I don't think we're gonna master space in 95 years. So, that still leaves the question though, like, what is his whole point of this program? If the aliens are an after the fact addition to the program, which clearly in some form they are going to be, what was the main goal of this program? I had to assume that, like in Altered Carbon, the wealthiest among us will become immortal. You know,
That's
that kind like, they keep amassing those fortunes and they get the best of
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
So,
exactly. I
I
think it's
have
gonna be
to
similar.
wonder, is this, like, the early phase of, like, the progression to getting an adult human mind to make the jump?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, like, the sick children are the guinea pigs, like,
Yeah, because, they're
Wendy was the
already
first.
dying.
Yeah, she was the first. I think, yeah, it's gonna end up going down some, like, very, I don't know, like, capitalist feudalism where, like, the ultra
I
wealthy are
mean
gonna be able to kind of live out their days and collect all the wealth because they never die. And
right.
so, I don't know, maybe that's what Boy Kavalier is up to. Maybe he wants to do this for himself. Maybe he wants to live forever, and
Yeah,
this
I
is, like,
mean,
the goal he's working towards.
he should definitely check in with the meths of Altered Carbon because they could tell him that at a certain point of immortality, you get bored and start doing really crazy stuff.
Well,
Um,
I think he's going to. I think it's not even gonna take,
oh, I don't think it'll take much
generations.
for
Yeah,
him because he's like a half click away from insane right now.
yeah. I wanted to ask you who your favorite character or characters are so far because I'm just curious if it's the same as mine.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. One of my favorite characters so far is Morrow,
Okay.
the
Okay.
cyborg. Yeah,
Okay.
like,
Okay.
just just degaff all the way around, like, at every moment degaff. I have time to let you in, but
Decaf.
I'm instead, I'm gonna weld the door shut and then
Yeah.
see you later, crew dead. The kids in synth bodies, they're fine.
I don't trust them. They creep me out a little
Well, they're
bit.
all I mean, they're
Yeah.
all like 11 and 12-year-olds. So, like that scene where they're all kind of like sitting around hanging out and like we've
Mhm.
got like the tripod leaning against each other. That's like really very much what 11 and 12-year-olds are like. So, I'm really like giving it to the show where they're nailing this childlike aspect. They're not just like putting kids in adult bodies and then being like, "Okay, you're adults now."
Right.
I really like Morrow, and I really did wanna get to know, the brother. What's
Joe
his
or
n Joe.
CJ.
Joe, yeah, Joe, like Joe from the baseball. I really was interested in getting to know his, like, what I thought was, like, his partner, girlfriend, um, but I'm not sure that she's gonna still be there. So, I think right now we're just kinda getting to know characters, and I'm also really interested in Dame Sylvia.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like, she clearly has different motives from Boy
Miss Fisher.
Kavalier. Yeah.
Yeah. She
Also, is Kirsh a cyborg?
I think Kirsch is he fully, like, fully,
Like, fully cyborg or fully synth? I didn't get the idea he's not a hybrid. So but I do enjoy his, like, tidbits that he
I think
keeps,
he's a
like,
s
barking out at the children. "Emotions are
mhm.
for humans.
Yeah, yeah.
Fear is
Um,
human. Get
yeah.
over it."
Yeah, they've got a good kind of, like, well-rounded cast that I am enjoying. I think the character that I'm most interested in at this point is the brother, Joe. Like,
Okay.
there's something I refuse to believe he's introduced just to connect, like, group A with, group B, like, get these
How
kids out on this mission. But the thing is like, okay, so, like, you were naming off all of these characters, right? We've got the scientists, the geniuses, the ultra wealthy heads of these corporations that own everything. We've got these kids who are basically indestructible. We've got synths, we've got cyborgs, we've got hybrids. The cast is like full of like all of these very different characters, and then there's Joe, right? Like he's just some guy.
Well,
He's
he's a
just
combat medic, so
well, yeah, but, like, in the scale of things, he's
he's
pretty
pretty much just a
average.
guy.
Yeah, like, he's pretty average in comparison to all of these other characters, and where, like, I kind of wanna see if what they're doing is they present us with Wendy, so we think, "Okay, well, like, maybe she's gonna be this alien hunter badass that saves the day, and she's kind of gonna be like our stand-in for Ripley, like the similar type scenario? Or are they going to kind of like go in a totally different route with her and put it on the shoulders of like a normal person? Because like that's when you look at the original Alien movie, like, they're just trekkers in space. They're just these normal people. Like, they're not it's something totally different than the setting of this series. So, like, I'm almost wondering if it's like they're gonna do a bait and switch and it's gonna come down to Joe kind of like just getting by on like intuition, someone that's not like a scientist, someone who's not super strong, who's just able to in the moment like outsmart something and someone, be able to kind of get away with it? Or is it going to be more of like a teamwork aspect? I don't know where it's going, and with only 2 episodes it's really hard to gauge.
Yeah, I wish that they would have dropped 3. I think maybe a 3rd episode might have, like, sewn those 2 episodes together
Mhm.
a little bit more clearly because this is we've got a lot of, like, groundwork being laid in these 2 episodes. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta learn all these different factions, and then we've already got, like, xenomorphs on the move. And
Mhm.
kudos to Joe for ducking that one that came out
Mhm.
of the ceiling at him. I also like how many different interpretations of the xenomorph do you think they're gonna use?
I don't know. I feel like with every movie, they get a chance to kind of, like, level up how weird the aliens are gonna be. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some new I don't know, some new evolutions, I guess, of it. But
Yeah.
at the same time, like,
Well,
we've gotten a lot already, so maybe, like, we'll just see these
yeah.
ones.
So we have, like, all the movie ones, then we have the video game brings in, like, a ton of additionals. I was trying to kinda, like because I'm not super, like, into the universe, I was trying to, like, study the life cycle of a xenomorph last
Mhm.
night online, and
Get out the whiteboard.
yeah, I should. My whiteboard's right there. So, I found this interesting, like, flow chart. It even had you know how in the one scene, the cat's all, like,
Yeah.
hobbling and then, like, the face breaks off, little eyeball that then, like,
Mhm.
is like, "Activate all the activate all the pupils." Um, so, I actually did find this in this flow chart, and that's from an animal being infected, that's basically what happens, is they become like one of those eyeball things, which okay,
Okay.
but yeah, that still leaves me with questions like, do those evolve into a full-size xenomorph or no? Like you were saying, are we think about how quickly the xenomorphs could like parasitically spread across Earth.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying, like,
So
we've got the collapsed building, like, are we moving on to, like, a bigger, like, location where we're gonna see, like, cities being locked down and, stuff like that?
I
Like, I don't know
mean,
how big it's gonna get is the
let me
thing, like,
say
how
this.
widespread.
Does a lockdown even help in this situation? Because we saw one rip through a welded shut, like, space
Yeah.
door, and so then it's like, okay, well, I mean, if they can just rip through whatever they want, like, how do you even stop them at that point? If we're looking at, like, mass spread infection, which we probably would be because they've had a number of hours, it seems,
But the
like,
thing is
post-crash.
if there's a mass spread infection and, like, host situation, I don't know if it works with the timeline of everything because if that happens, then I feel like Earth would already, like, in other in other movies, they would
Oh,
know
I
about
should have
them,
yeah, I
you
should have
know?
asked, like, is this like a prequel quill situation, or
I
is this,
have to
like, somewhere along the timeline?
Yeah. So Alien Earth happens after Prometheus, after Alien Covenant.
Found a perfect one.
Alien Earth happens before Alien. If there was a widespread situation, people would know what these things are. So in later down the road, like people would know what these things are, like when they come in contact with them in other places. So I'm not sure if like the containment can get out of
Yeah,
control. Otherwise they would be like,
because
"Oh yeah, we experienced those things and year so and so and it's them again." You know what I mean?
movie like,
Who
yeah,
would
because
forget
like
that? I feel like the opening setup was really cool, just, like, being on the ship, that kind of, like, familiar aspect to it all, like, "Ah, yes, we remember this is how everything looks, it's how it sounds, okay, cool," like, check mark there. Um, but the crash, like, the actual crash I thought was really cool. I don't know if Morrow had full like, I don't think he had full control of the ship, but it kind of almost seemed like he was able to, like, guide it in a little bit, otherwise it just would have been,
yeah,
like, an explosion.
I kinda got
Um
the idea that he had, like, set it on path and
Mhm.
then hopped into the impact,
Yeah.
like, the impact chamber.
Mhm.
And so he 100% knew that it was, like, gonna because he even, like, called it in and was like, "Imminent collision with Earth."
Yeah, yeah. I think the scene of, like, the crash while he's still still in orbit, like before he kind of like makes it through and you see it connect with like some ring type structure, kind of like crushes some things and just comes barreling towards Earth. And I thought like that visually looked really nice, but then like it gets even better because when we're down on the ground and we're seeing like this ship come in, I don't know.
That was a
There
killer scene.
it
The
was
way that it,
awesome.
like,
It was
the way
awesome.
they brought it in was
Yeah.
it was incredible CGI there.
Yeah. The team, whoever worked on that, like, they really outdid themselves. But another thing that was really interesting to me is how much maybe it's just because of, like, how old I am, but, like, watching scenes from the ground totally felt like the World Trade Center, like,
Mm.
people, like, covering their mouths, like, running, like, you can't see, it's just rubble and dust and casualties, and I really appreciated that shot of Joe kind of, like, it's a pretty long shot where they're walking and talking, and, like, as they're walking and talking, you've got people running and, big chunks of the building are falling, and then they actually go in, and that kind of, like, sets up our next location, and I think all of that was done really well in terms of, like, plotting that out, like, we start in space on the ship, and then the ship actually like, we get to watch it go down, and then we're following the footsteps of Joe, and then we're actually, like, in the building. So we get all the way from, like, point A to point B, and that all worked really well for me in terms of, like, just, like, connecting the scenes and connecting the story. I thought that was great. The Neverland stuff, I'm kind of more meh on. Like, I'm curious. I definitely wanna see where it goes, but right now I don't feel like I have enough information to, like, really connect to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I really enjoyed the scenes with the search and rescue team.
Mhm.
Like, even in that, like, even right before the Xenomorph shows up, where they're like, "Oh, no, the stairs are gone, but we're gonna keep going," and then they're like, "I
Yeah.
guess we're just gonna make these jumps." And I was really kind of enjoying, like, I would say the dynamic that those people have together, where when you're always in these kind of, like, high stress situations, you deal with it in whatever way you can, routinely by laughter and, joking around. But oh, dude, oh my gosh, you know what keeps flashing through my mind is if I were tied to that pole and that little thing was crawling all over me, I
Yeah,
would
like
leave my body. It would be done.
I mean, that's the type of stuff that I want to see, like and
Yeah.
it's the type of stuff that I'm expecting of the story, but I don't know, like, I think some people might be looking more like realism in it all. Personally, I'm like, it's alien, like, it's not that deep. Just sit
Yeah.
back, don't think too hard, like, just enjoy it. But then on the other hand, what this showrunner is doing and kind of setting all this up is where he's introducing, okay, like, actually, I am gonna introduce something. You are gonna need to think about it and it's probably gonna go deeper than what the main, like, just plain horror action fans are looking for, and so I think that's the part where there's a little bit of a disconnect, because if you can do both, like, if it ends and they've managed to do both, I think it's gonna be a great series.
That's a win, yeah.
Yeah, so far, I am enjoying both. I don't I don't think either part is bad. I do there are some, like, questionable things, like, "How did this happen?" Or, like, "Is that like, how much do I wanna suspend my disbelief?" But, like,
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm also not sitting here hoping for it to be like you know what I mean? Like, just
I do.
it doesn't have to be, like, at the top of Mount Everest for me
No,
in
it
terms
doesn't.
of, like, it being alien, and I think for me, like, I when I watched Prometheus, I was kind of just like, it's
That's
trying too hard.
is that the one with the thing at the end, and you're like, "What am I looking at?" I
That's the
think that's
one where
why
they're meeting their maker, like, they find out that they're the
which
ancestors of.
okay, I've seen a bunch of them in theaters because I have a couple friends who are, like, really into it. So the last one I remember seeing in theaters was the one where, like
You're talking about the tall
yeah,
alien guy
that
hybrid.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that one. I don't wanna say, like, what I call it, but I remember, like, hysterically laughing in theaters when that thing came on screen.
Yeah, I
So, it's I think for me, maybe I'm not, like, deep enough into the universe to really be like, "Okay, I get where this falls in the timeline," which then, like, opens me up to, like, understanding other aspects of how this fits.
well, there's, like I mean, there's what, like, 9, 10 movies? So, I mean, it's not,
Is there? That's a lot.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying, though, like, each time you're gonna have a little bit different spin on things, and I just wonder, the people who are watching this, I feel like the purists who are just kind of like the older ones were the best, everything else is meh, There's gonna be these kind of like hardcore action horror people who are like, this whole stuff is just like too much. Like just stick with it and make it an alien story. But
I
I
mean
also think that there's newer fans out there that are like, yeah, I don't know, like Prometheus, that was what, like mid 2000s. I'm sure there are people that kind of grew up and saw that and they're like, this is really cool. Like, I liked thinking about this. I liked how I felt coming out of the movie theater and being like, wow, that was different. You know what I mean? And
I
so
do.
I'm interested to see like how this one kind of puts their spin on things and if it can manage to do what I'm hoping for, which is both. Like, I want a good monster story. I want the blood. I want the guts. I want the gore. But also, like, I want this whole Neverland thing, whatever, wherever it's going to be good and well thought out
Yeah.
and interesting.
I think that something for me is, like, I have higher expectations for television shows than I do for movies. Like, my friend and I a couple of my friends and I have that, like, movie pass. We see, like, every new movie that comes out. So, there is a definite divide between the quality of stories in movies and the quality of stories in like, I should say in good movies, good television. Um, a big thing with, like, good television is that so many of the programs that fall into that put the time into exposition and world building.
Yeah, I mean, when you have longer, I mean, it just makes sense to
I
do
guess
it.
I also don't know how long this is gonna be, but I don't know as though I think that, like, running this in the same way that you would, like, an Aliens movie will necessarily work the best.
Yeah, and it might just be too because it's always interesting because some series you can kind of tell like it wasn't plotted out to be contained per episode where like each episode has a very concrete like beginning, middle, end, and it has a full
Oh, I
theme
don't
within the
even
episode
necessarily
and what,
yeah, I
stuff
don't
like
even
that. And
necessarily need that. I just need there to be like when you have 10 hours to tell a story, I do have a higher level of expectation for your storytelling than versus telling a story in 90 minutes.
yeah.
Do
So
you know what I mean?
yeah, before we wrap it up, what are the if you could pick, next episode, what's the main thing you want it to achieve?
Mm. Oh, okay. So I would be really happy if the next episode achieves more comprehension about like what Boy Cavalier's plan is, or I would take an either or situation. I don't remember what the name of the other corporation was. He spoke to that lovely woman on the phone who was like, "That's my shit," and he was like, "No, it's mine now. LOL." Um, the woman who owns the
Mhm.
corporation,
Yeah.
like, who wanted the aliens to begin with, who Morrow works for,
Mhm.
I would even be happy with an either/or situation. You either get me to a point where I can see what the point of this whole, like, Neverland project is, or you get me to the point that I understand what the other corporation wanted with alien like, species, live species in multiple life stages.
Right, right.
So,
I'm pretty
like
sure this corporation that you're talking about has their ties in, like, so many of the other movies and are connected to doing a lot of, like, biological
right.
weird stuff.
And
So
it's like, I know I could get out there on the internet and probably find out, but at the same time, it becomes a situation where I don't have a whole lot of, like, expectation going into the
Mhm,
show. All I expect to do is be entertained by the story. So my only expectation is really that it just meets my expectations for a television show. But I don't wanna, like, get out there and then burrow into these, like, expectations of how this is gonna be because of, like, prior understanding of the universe when they could change a lot of things. So, I'm just hoping to understand, like, one of those 2 motives. I know that there's other
mhm.
motives that we're gonna have to wait for, but, like, unraveling those 2 motives would do a lot for me.
Okay.
What about
Alright.
you?
I think I already laid it out. Like, I just for next episode, I really don't have, like, any expectations. I would like to know, I guess, maybe a little bit more, like, thematically what they're going for because we've got the whole, like, Peter Pan thing.
Mm.
I don't know if they're gonna kind of, like, let that fall to the side and start introducing, different angles and different,
Ooh, you know what'd be super
locations and stuff
cool?
like that, but I think the main thing is I wanna see, like, setting-wise where we end up.
Okay. I was just thinking about how, like, fun it would be if Dame Sylvia was actually working with the woman from the other corporation, but that's just me wanting to, like, interject some sort of, drama
Yeah.
and salaciousness into the story. But yeah, so I'm really excited to see the next episode, especially just because I really wanna see where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, if you've made it to the end, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. You can find me on Blue Sky, Instagram, Patreon, YouTube memberships, and we will be back with episode 3.